fight on the landing ground.
Thank you for joining us. You are listening to A Radio, and this is the Morning Moment. We're on weekdays, 11:45 Eastern. Follow us on Spreaker.com and click on the like button. This piece is from the Laura Ingraham Show, February 22nd, 2019. It concerns two things. First, it's about a Democratic hopeful candidate for president from California and how dangerous her views really are. And as I get messages from Canadian listeners to do, quote, more stuff on Canada, here's where the story crosses the international border. Now, Kamala Harris clearly thinks it's a great idea to legalize marijuana federally. In Canada, they've done just that. The cost to Canadians will be hidden from Canadians because, quite frankly, they don't want to admit that experts who know the real effects. But it's cool to have a liberal communist government that legalizes something that will not only kill you, but endanger other people who don't choose to indulge. I call a spade a spade. I'm not PC, and I really don't care if people think I should be. But I guarantee you the statistics on car injuries, road traffic accidents, in general, will be masked. Now, the only time they're going to be uncovered is most likely when the insurance analysts and actuaries will result in higher costs to you and me. But hey man, that's cool. Well, is it? Is it cool when the cause of a major accident on a national highway is revealed to be the result of a driver, God forbid, who drives under the influence? Question: what's the legal limit? When can you drive? How long do you have to wait before you can drive safely? Those and many other questions have never been answered to anybody's real satisfaction. Certainly not in Canada, and I bet in most other states as well. It's all glossed over. Oh, and tell that mother that loses their child on the crosswalk that you're only smoking a bit. No. In Canada, it's the irresponsible politicians led by 57 Genders Trudeau and others that will bear that responsibility. But like all politicians, they will wriggle their way out of harm's way. Let's hope it's never one of their family members. And as for the people like Kamala Harris, and she's not the only one, you have time to ask that question now, while you still can, before it's legal federally, because you can sue and you can win, but just like the drunk illegal, it won't bring your family member back, will it? This is one of those times, just as it is in Canada, where elections, as in our case, in October of 2019 this year, and yours, November 2020, where there are consequences. Think about that when you vote. I want you to listen to this expert that you'll hear in this clip, who lays out in simple terms the actual consequences of legalizing this dangerous drug. This is not a game. This is not fun. Then think about the states that have already legalized it and the ramifications of this, both legal and moral. Clearly in Canada's case, 57 Genders only considers a very small political base, never discusses it at all with all citizens. Americans, however, have a chance to stop it before it's too late. And that's my comment. Here's the piece. Links on my site.
Coming up, what the powerful do not want you to know about.
That's not true.
I know.
and look, I joke about it, half joking. Half my family's from Jamaica. Are you kidding me?
Have you ever smoked?
I have.
Okay.
Like and I inhale. I did inhale.
Okay.
There's that laugh again. Well, that was 2020 Democratic presidential hopeful Senator Kamala Harris. She was citing her Jamaican roots when she was asked about legalizing marijuana and why she smoked marijuana in the past. But her Jamaican-born dad, Donald Harris, he's not laughing. He's saying, quote, "My dear departed grandmothers, as well as my deceased parents, must be turning in their grave right now to see their family's name, reputation, and proud Jamaican identity being connected in any way, jokingly or not, with the fraudulent stereotype of the pot-smoking joy seeker and in the pursuit of identity politics." Awkward. Well, family squabble aside, Kamala is tapping into the wide acceptance of marijuana in the country, and she thinks she's going to get political juice from embracing it. And more states and more politicians look to line their pockets with this revenue from marijuana legalization. Joining me now is Alex Berenson. I had Alex on the podcast a couple weeks ago. I got a huge reaction. He's a former New York Times reporter. Get this. He's the author of a new book. You got to read this. It's called Tell Your Children the Truth About Marijuana, Mental Illness, and Violence. All right, Alex, people think New York Times reporter, former, current, doesn't matter. Well, why would he write a book about the dangers of marijuana? So here's the question. Why the heck did you?
Well, it was really my wife who encouraged me to write the book. She's a psychiatrist. She deals with the criminally mentally ill. And she would tell me, she'd come home from her job at a forensic hospital, which is really where they send the criminally insane. And she'd tell me about case after case where people had committed horrible crimes under the influence or who had become schizophrenic after years of using. And, in my grand knowledge, I would say to her, oh, that sounds like reefer madness. That's not true. That can't be real. And she is the one who trained at Harvard and Columbia. She's the one who sees these people every day. She said to me, you know what? Maybe you should look at the studies yourself. And when I did, I was shocked at the strength of the science showing that marijuana is linked to mental illness. It is linked to psychosis. And then psychosis, which is a break from reality, is linked to crime.
Yeah, Alex, I'm thinking of someone like a John Boehner, who was former Speaker of the House. Now, he was staunchly against marijuana legalization. And then I see him talking about, a year ago or so. Suddenly, it's the big switcheroo from Boehner. Okay? Let's watch what he said.
It's time for the federal government to take another look at this. And I think descheduling this drug, allowing for the research, would be very helpful to the American people.
Well, what's also helpful is that he's a pot advisory board member on one of these big marijuana companies, and I imagine he's getting paid. I don't know for a fact, but I can't imagine he's out there switching his position for nothing.
Well, and he's also a smoker. So you know what? Here's the thing. If we're going to legalize this drug and we're going to say, you know what, this is a dangerous recreational intoxicant, but, cigarettes are legal, alcohol is legal, people can go gamble their houses away. We think marijuana fits in that category. We're going to warn people about it and let them make their own choices. So be it. I don't think that's the right choice, but so be it. But let's not pretend that this is medically necessary for people. And let's really not pretend that this is a good idea for teenagers, that this is a good idea for people whose brains are still developing, that this is a good idea for people who have psychiatric conditions, who have anxiety or depression. Let's be honest about what the risks here are. And, the book is called Tell Your Children because I want people to be able to have those conversations with their kids. I want people who are in their 20s and might be using and seeing psychiatric side effects that they didn't expect, who are feeling weirdly more depressed, who are having weird thoughts, to have some idea that, this is not a benign drug, and there is a low to this high.
Well, and I would also remind everybody that just because alcohol is bad and other drugs are bad, it doesn't mean this is good.
That's absolutely right.
That's just like, well, alcohol is bad. Well, yeah. Okay, so we need another thing that screws up young people. I've got to say, I find it's so absurd. There is no medical peer-reviewed research, it's very quickly, Alex, that demonstrates a medical benefit to pot. Am I right about that?
There are very narrow conditions where it's been shown to do some good. And CBD, which is the non-intoxicating chemical, there are some narrow conditions where it's been proven to do some good. But for the most part, you're right. The left has done a fantastic job of confusing people about this issue. Cannabis advocates have done a fantastic job. And frankly, my old boss, my old employer, the New York Times, the Washington Post, these places have not pushed back on this. And it's a real failure of journalism.
We're going to keep on this. Thank you for joining us and writing this book.
You can find more at aradio.wordpress.com, where you can find links to us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Gab, and email. You can now find us on Spotify. Just go to the podcast section and type Canadian Politics with a Twist, and you'll find us. We are continuing to reach out to you, so please pass on the links. Please click on the follow button on Spreaker.com. You can listen to all my morning moments at Spreaker.com under A Radio, that's EHRADIO, A Radio, and please click on the like button. And you can find all my podcasts and Morning Moments at aradio.wordpress.com and click on the Morning Moments tab.